Hey, so here's another kind of quick video that I wanted to show you guys about a very, I'm going to say secretive functionality of Blender, but I think it's going to be relatively useful for pretty much everybody using the software. But before I show you what it is, let's kind of just situate ourselves in a pretty common occurrence where you'd use this. So I have these two elongated cubes here, and they have a couple subdivisions. Not that that's really important. What is important though, is that if we take a look, both of these have the same exact modifier, which is just going to be a simple deform in this case. Now, I believe it doesn't matter what modifier you use. I think this is going to work for pretty much all of them, if not all of them. But just be aware that this might not work in every instance. So we can see that I've gone ahead and actually renamed these modifiers to 1. Now that's just for show and tell purposes, but it is kind of important, but I'll explain that in a second. So say I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to work on both of these objects here, and I wanted them to bend using this modifier at the same exact interval, right? So if I go ahead and say I move this over to 45 degrees, well, then I'd have to come over to this modifier and say I wanted it to be the exact same, right? I'd have to go in and also change that to 45 degrees. And then for whatever reason, if I, decided, oh, I want to change that back and I have to go all the way back, or I want to change it to something else, right? I'm going back into each one of these objects and changing the modifier. So now here's where the really kind of cool secretive workflow comes into gear. So if I select both of these objects and I go over to one of the properties I want to change, if I go ahead and I hold the Alt key and then I go ahead and start to slide through this, you can see it's actually doing the parameter update for both of the objects and their respective modifiers. So let's go and we'll bring this to like 9 degrees, right? So we can see it's changed it to 9 degrees here and 9 degrees for this one as well. So there's a couple things you need to be aware of when using this Alt hotkey when working with the modifiers. Like I was saying, you have to make sure that the modifiers obviously are of the same type. These are both the simple deform modifier, right? That's going to be your first kind of obstacle there. The second one is they need to have the same exact name. So we can see if I go ahead and actually change this one to toof, we'll say, just for sake of argument, right? So 1 and 2, and I go ahead and select these both, and I'm going to hold down Alt again and try and slide through. It's not going to be able to link up those modifiers. So the naming is actually pretty important for these modifiers. So recap, same type and same name. Now something that is cool as well is if I go back to this second one here, and I'll just rename that back to the same name as our other one, and I select this again, you can see that these actually have different values, and it's going to respect these values if I want to go ahead and do like a link edit for these modifiers again. So I'm holding Alt, and I'm going to scrub through this slider here, and we can see that now they kind of have a bit of an offset of each other, but I can still manipulate them as if they were linked modifiers. So that's actually really, really cool and really handy. And again, very, very secretive. I don't know, maybe you guys already knew about this and I'm late to the party, but I did want to just show you that it's a kind of cool feature of Blender that's going to really hopefully help out your workflow. And so here's a bit of a montage of me working with other modifiers to show you that you can actually use this functionality with other stuff. Now, like I said, I'm not entirely sure if it's going to work for all of the modifiers, but I think it's probably going to be safe to say that it's going to work for most. So thanks for checking out the video and all the best.